Welcome to Ticker Tidbits.
How's it going, everyone?
Kate and Alex in studio today to talk about progress.
Ooh,
It's
I
exciting.
love progress.
Which is an interesting statement because I think that with a lot of fitness programs, the whole progress of the program can get lost.
Yeah, easily.
I think we can even start out by talking about the difference between a program like you do at Ticker, a progressive training program, versus a personal training, like hiring a personal trainer.
Ooh, yeah.
Now, obviously, there are many different myriads of ways that you can hire a personal trainer, and maybe you hire a really good personal trainer that does progress you through something. And we can get into, and you can look up in previous podcasts when we talk about assessments, the importance of assessments. Yeah. Let's touch on the importance of assessments first. So, progress is what?
Improvement, I guess is another way to say it. Just getting better. Something is changing. It's change, I guess.
It's change over time. Yeah, that's how I would kind of think about it too. So we have in, our notes here, progress. Even when you might not see it or feel it, how do you gauge and measure progress? Yeah. So every Ticker program starts out with a series of assessments, and I tell everybody on this of how do you know how you're progressing, where you're going, if you don't figure out where you're starting from.
Yeah, you got to find your starting point so that 3 months from now you can be like, oh, it didn't work, or hey, it worked really well.
Right. So obvious starting points, and which we put a lot of validity in, are numbers.
Yeah.
Because they're numbers.
They're very easy. They're quick. You look at it, you're like, this number is bigger than this one. That's good. Or this number is less than this one. That's also good.
Right. So obvious numbers we look at, in our series of assessments, we look at, I have numbers in my head of scores. We have health score numbers that are numbers that we can look at. We get body composition numbers.
Yeah, we get weight, body fat percentage. We use the 3D cams.
Right. So we have a movement screen
Movement
number.
screen, yeah.
With the PNOE testing, a metabolic test, we can give you numbers of percentages of fuel utilization, VO2 max, fat max, all that kind of thing. Heart rate numbers are another number.
Mm-hmm.
Hard numbers that we can look at.
And then you go out into the gym. You got all your weights, your lifts that you might have that you pre-test when you first come in the first couple of weeks.
So breaking that kind of apart, when you're coaching a new athlete in their first series of assessments, so we look at new numbers for squat, press, deadlift. It's basically squat, press, pull.
Yeah.
To get ideas of how they move weight and move around themselves in space. How do you coach up figuring out? Because I know we put in 2-rep max. Mm-hmm. It's not a singular max effort. When you're coaching that, how do you kind of gauge, when the movement, when they stop at that 2RM?
I guess it depends on the level of the athlete. If someone who's like really new to fitness, it's probably not even going to be like finding a 2-rep max. It's just going to be like, where can we add weight while you still maintain form?
Or
some resemblance of form. And then the more, what's the word I'm looking for? Experienced athletes, then we're starting to load up weight and we can kind of let them get after it a little bit.
And that's kind of where I was going for is like we have these obvious numbers. Like we can take an athlete, athlete A and put them out on the floor and pile as much weight as we can on them until they drop it on the floor and they can't lift it up or can't squat under it anymore. Yeah. Or you mentioned with good movement patterns, you as a coach looking at people. So there's where we kind of dive into progress in more atypical or not as obvious ways.
Outside of the numbers.
Right.
Basically.
So, taking somebody in that maybe has trouble getting to depth of squat or quality of motor pathways and movement patterns. Why is it important to have both?
Because sometimes the numbers don't reflect what's actually happening, I guess. So I have a client who, we've been trying to get his weight down, and over the last couple months, the weight has been slowly decreasing, but what has changed is stuff going on the floor in the gym. So now before he couldn't squat to anything lower than a bench, and now he's squatting to a 12-inch box. Yeah. And slowly using less and less of the rig for support. And there's other people. So when the movements or when the numbers stop moving, you can still look at the skills and all skill acquisition. Like
Skills are another one.
They've gotten better. They've all of a sudden can do a push-up. They can squat to depth instead of not all the way. You can squat without knee pain.
Yeah, I think about that all the time, the skills that, and we'll now talk about like the absence of things. We get a lot of, because we do functional fitness and we do use the Olympic movements in a lot of our training. I mean, we get a lot of people that come into the gym not having any idea what a snatch or a clean and jerk is. So I would measure progress of, you didn't know what these things even were. Your baseline was 0. You didn't know how to clean weight from the floor up onto your shoulders. I had a client ask me the other week, why would I bother doing that? And I'm like, well, how are you getting weight from the floor, even up onto the rig to lift it, or onto your shoulders to move it around?
Or just out in life, like you got to pick stuff up outside the gym.
Right.
And put it on high places sometimes.
Absolutely.
Best way to get it there is a clean.
Turns out. And if you do it safely and effectively, you're not going to hurt yourself.
Oh my God, the amount of times I've done like beautiful cleans on dog food bags.
Costco boxes.
Yes. Oh my God, functional fitness right there. Costco trips.
And me being short, bar muscle ups onto the counter to get the glasses and the plates on the top shelf.
It's important.
Interestingly, like progress-wise, the functionality of a squat. I took a client in and we were looking at her range of motion and she wasn't getting all the way to parallel. And we kind of talked about the fact of like why it's important to even progress that.
How do you go to the bathroom?
Right. Like, how are you going to sit on the toilet? Or how are you going to put your shoes on? You can be sitting down in your lazy boy at home. People don't even have lazy boys anymore. They're like
I don't think so.
Gaming chairs.
Yeah. Hey, wow, I feel attacked.
Old lady. Same. So if I think about it, you can just, aim for the couch and fall onto something that's soft. But in general, how are you getting back up? So why would we progress a movement that seems out of place outside of the gym? Except for, going to Costco and dog food bags and all that kind of thing.
Except for all these examples that you're going to use.
Except all those that I should have led that into. The next thing is, and we were talking about the absence of having those skills and then kind of applying the skills that we're, working on improving. Absence of pain.
That's a big one.
Yeah. I mean, if I think about, let's take I used to say your cat litter because cat litter is really expensive and heavy. And my dad would go to Costco and he'd be like, let's get this big thing of cat litter. And it was like 50-some pounds. Yeah, Pete's a crazy cat lady. Hopefully he doesn't listen to our podcast.
Oh, boy.
But moving this cat litter, right? Now, say you are in some sort of shape that you would have pain while picking up, like back pain. A lot of people complain about back pain. Or because our society is such that we sit all the time. I hear a lot of clients talk about how sore they are from sitting all day.
The rounded shoulders, as I'm sitting here with rounded shoulders.
Shrugged in. Another way to measure, I think about this, is these are measurements I know I look for as a coach, and you probably notice on the floor as well. And we notice with the Fit 3D is postural changes.
Yeah.
Which, would probably heal a lot of pain from sitting from, picking up dog food the wrong way.
Some of the biggest changes we've seen are like in the Fit 3D is the first Fit 3D, everyone's rounded shoulder, and then the next one, maybe the numbers aren't too different, but they're standing up tall the whole time.
Yeah. Completely circling back onto numbers, and you mentioned the Fit 3D. Again, we didn't dive enough into body composition numbers. So body composition numbers, the weight on the scale is I think the pinnacle of what most people use as the measurement of progress and change in the gym.
Yeah.
Most people come into the gym and either want to lose weight or
put on weight
because they want to gain muscle.
Yeah.
And how do we know we're being successful in that? On top of making it so that they don't have pain so they can train to actually put on muscle or lose weight and move in space, move well, the quality of movement you talked about in the functional
and then adding skills.
And then adding the skills so that it's fun to continue to train.
Yeah.
But I often say things like, when I'm looking at both the InBody that we use and the Fit 3D that we use, I often say take these numbers as a grain of salt.
Yeah, changes day to day.
Yeah, I mean, you're a great example of you were in the InBody yesterday and are starting to see progress move around in a favorable way.
Yeah, my weight has not changed in like 2 months, but what they've shown, what the weight is, has changed.
Right. So you could stand on the, Walmart scale at home.
Walmart's an interesting brand to choose from, but whatever.
I was going to say grocery store scale, but that's small. Your home scale and see that number, right?
Yeah. So I'm just thinking of someone sitting in one of those, fruit scales and Meyer. Sorry. All right, back to where we were at.
You're going to drop in some sort of picture here, I have a feeling.
Now I am.
So you could stand on the scale every morning and see the same number and not realize the progress that you're making versus coming into the gym every day and seeing the numbers change in your muscle and your body fat percentage.
Maybe you're 220 pounds when you start here, and 3 months later you're like, God, I'm still 220 pounds. But you look, and then you've added 10 pounds of muscle and lost 10 pounds of fat. Not so bad anymore, is it?
Exactly. And you've been up and down and all. I mean, so have I.
Yeah.
I mean, my number also doesn't change very often, but the way I'm composed. Now, I don't put a whole lot into it because I'm also looking at all the other measurements. Like I'm looking at my body fat percentage goes down when I lift more and I have more muscle.
Yeah.
The same thing. If I'm doing long endurance sports, I have some clients that hold a little more body fat percentage on them that they have to be able to endure, which is fine and healthy. And there's a lot to be said about like general health and not getting obsessed with the numbers as well. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of where we had started talking about this is, clients that we have the obvious numbers we can look at. I'm not getting, the scale number isn't going down. Maybe it's changing, but it's still an X number.
Yeah.
And even, what about the clients, I can think of one in particular that's frustrated that the numbers on the barbell, the weights aren't changing a whole lot.
Yeah, but maybe the quality at which you can move the weights that you can move is getting better.
Right. And then if you can cross-reference that, like if I think about somebody that, can't hold front rack position to squat, and we finally get this person holding a really nice front rack position to squat 6 months in, let's say.
Yeah.
The weight is still the same. It's still the barbell. I can almost guarantee that there's probably less pain, less mobility issues, less impingements.
Definitely.
And you can look at the progress around all that kind of stuff. And I bet that trickle-down effect might even happen if you're holding yourself better in space. You're moving about your day better.
Yeah, better quality of life outside of the gym.
Right, and sleep quality and everything else. Sleep's another number that we don't look at a whole lot. And I don't have a whole huge, deep hypothesis. Maybe you do more. That maybe. The numbers that we don't look at, the quality of sleep, the quality of life outside the gym that you mentioned as well.
Yeah, I know I've been tracking sleep a little bit more, but I don't put too much, to be honest, I don't put too much into sleep. Like, I know I'm going to get 5.5 to 6 hours of sleep a night. And I wear my Apple Watch, and, I have an app that'll tell me about how deep I'm sleeping, but, like, even then, I take the numbers with a grain of salt.
And looking at those numbers, do you see any correlation with how you feel? Like, is that something that...
I can wake up and before I even look at my sleep app, I know, like, that was a terrible night of sleep. And then I look at the sleep app, and then it's like, yeah, no, you got 2 hours of restful sleep during your 6 hours. And I'm like, yep, that makes sense.
And then, I'm figuring out kind of where I want to go with this. That happens every night. Your progress is probably going to change in the gym and outside the gym and your life and everything else because of those numbers.
Oh, yeah. If I don't get if I have a week straight of not sleeping well, it shows in the gym real quick. It shows everywhere, but in the gym especially, once I start trying to pick up heavy weights on not good quality sleep, the weights don't go up.
Because recovery is huge. And recovery is sleep. It's also nutrition. And it can progress and, we can see progress both directions on that. We can see regression with sleep in terms of progress. Nutrition quality is another one that you can have obvious numbers. You can weigh, you can measure, you can look at calories.
You can count macros.
You can count macros. You can look at all the numbers there and see change in metrics in that. And these are all correlating factors into measuring progress. If I don't do a good job eating, I don't feel as well, I don't sleep as well, I don't train as well, my progress is going to slow. Obviously, if you obsess over those numbers, you could or could not, or just pay attention to what you're eating. I feel like you could go either way.
Yeah. I think if you overly obsess on any one area of numbers, the other areas eventually are going to fall behind.
Right.
If you are only about how much time I'm spending in the gym, you're like, every week I'm going to spend another 15, 20 minutes in the gym, eventually sleep's going to go down, and then overtraining is going to affect everything else, quality of life, da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
And
it's
if
a balance.
If you don't sleep, everything else affects. If you oversleep, everything else affects.
Yeah. It's a very, very delicate balance of all these things.
That's why you can't measure everything with just numbers.
Exactly.
Crazy.
So thanks for listening, guys. If you want to talk about progress, figure out how to start seeing progress and change, reach out. Leave us a message down below. Reach out, tickerfitness.com.
If you made it this far, make sure you give us a like, subscribe, share with friends. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye.
Bye.